today's practice, because it's a rather long session, right? If we were to do all the five elements, instead, we're going to focus on two elements. So we're going to just practice with two elements so that everybody really gets a chance to practice. I'm going to demo for you kind of the different stages of the session as best I can, knowing that just like you, I am not perfect at this either, and there's always room for flexibility in the way we guide any session or the way we engage as a coach. But just as a little preparation to begin, to be in a state that we could call a coach's state. Um, let's just call in some of our resources, and please do type into the chat if you are willing to be the volunteer for today's session practice. But what we'll do now is we'll just do a little like 3-minute practice of calling ourselves into a state that is helpful to us as coaches. So let's just begin, and you can have your eyes open or closed. I'm going to try this with my eyes open, challenging myself a little bit. So we can just start by allowing our breath to help us to relax and come into the present moment. And one way we can do that with our breathing is to allow our exhale to be a little longer than our inhale. So you might inhale to the count of 3 and then exhale to the count of 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See what that's like at whatever rhythm or pace feels right to you to make that exhale a little bit longer. And the focus here is just releasing and relaxing with the exhale. I find it helpful to take a little pause and hold my breath for a little bit before the exhale. Check that out in yourself. And then just notice, where are you today in your body? Any sensations, things you notice, and just give yourself that recognition, give yourself that validation. Tell yourself you are totally safe to feel the way you feel. It's absolutely okay, whatever you sense. If there's nervousness, you tell that nervousness, it's okay. I see you. You're allowed. Anything else you sense, discomfort, tension, joy, ease, a tight muscle, a sore, whatever it is, just let yourself have that space to feel. Same with the emotions. Giving yourself that space to be allowed to feel exactly the way you feel right now. And as you do this for yourself, you're creating a very safe energy for your client, so that when they share with you how they feel or what they sense or the way they relate to the elements, they also feel your sense of validation, your shared experience with them. So they receive healing just from your presence. When you are present and allowing them to be as they are, and they can speak their experience to you. This is a very healing moment in the coaching, because they're accepting their energy, the way they relate to themselves, and they're putting it into words. And they have your presence and your understanding and your acceptance. And most people don't get that very often from other people. So, this is why coaching of any kind, and specifically energy coaching, is so helpful. Of course, you're teaching them strategies, they're learning tools, all of this, but also your presence, your energy. And that's why this is not something to skip over. It's something to always prepare for, because that your presence is super important. And you don't have to be any kind of meditation Olympic or energy, healing master or something, exactly the way you are with your intentions to be present and validating to your client and curious, ready to explore, ready to help them find new resources. This is what your clients need. So just take a last moment to give yourself now in language internally validation and to give yourself a reminder of what your resources are as a coach. These could be your values. This could be your kindness. This could be your curiosity. This could be something else that I'm not even aware of. It could be that you planted a tree this morning, or you took a hike, or you enjoyed something wonderful, and that's a resource you have right now. So just notice your own resources and let yourself fill with them. Okay, do we have a volunteer for today's practice? Okay, Cynthia said I will volunteer happily. Cynthia, have you volunteered yet for Energy Coach? I can't remember. No? Okay, great. Great. Just so everyone knows, we're going to jump in to the 5 element strategy guide. It says elements guided energy healing and strength process at the top. And we just did that short meditation, so we're going to not do that one, although you're welcome to do that with a client. We're going to go right into the topic for today's coaching exploration at the bottom of page 1. All right, Cynthia, I want to work with you. I do not know why.
Cynthia, if you have any headphones that have been plugged in or
This was just happening to me the other day, so I totally understand. And I had a really interesting morning leading up to today's session, so I couldn't find my phone, which I took to be a message that I should meditate. So I meditated. And then I tried to download Acrobat so I could proof an important, actually, book, and couldn't download Acrobat. So I was like just frustrated by technology so many times that I meditated again. And so the morning was really a beautiful morning of meditation leading up to this. So I'm very happy and relaxed. So I was like, yay, my technology failed me. So you never know, Cynthia, maybe something good will come of the technology not working. So,
Does that work now?
oh, there you are.
You can hear me now?
Yes. Okay,
Thank you for
Cynthia,
being
I'm
patient.
excited
I
to work
appreciate
with
that.
you today. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much.
Great. And how was that like little practice that we started with today? How did you feel going into coach's state and that validation?
That was really nice. It felt wonderful. And I just got done watching most of your demonstration from before that was sent through the email, and that was really great. So I was excited to be able to do this.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm glad that that's working for people to get that in advance. We
Mm,
always want people to come even if they can't see that, so don't worry about it if you're here and you did not get to see that. That's okay too.
yeah.
Um, Awesome. So today we're going to do a little exploration with the 5 elements in our session. And I'm going to just share with you a little bit about the 5 elements as a kind of it's a tool you can use to Cynthia, I know you've talked to me a little bit in the past about relationship and about building your business and also about your spirituality. And the 5 elements is a way you can actually connect to all those aspects of your life to kind of notice where you're at with things. So let me tell you a little more about 5 elements. I'm sorry, this is like the teacherly part of coaching. Um, so these 5 elements, this theory or tradition for healing comes from both India and Tibet, and it's been passed down in different kind of wisdom traditions. But I use it in my coaching work more as a form of energy coaching that I find is really empowering for everyone, regardless of our faith or our tradition or where we're from. So the five elements are air, earth, water, fire, and space. And we can find actually that everything is made up in some way from these elements. So even if like we were to look at how you're feeling right now, once you know about these elements, you'll be able to kind of sense, oh, I'm having a little more air element right now. I could use some grounding earth. Or I'm having a lot of water. I feel very comfortable. There's flow in me. It feels lovely. I'm just going to enjoy this. So sometimes the elements kind of show us just where we're at, and we're very happy with that. And sometimes the elements show us, maybe we lost our temper, and then we can go, oh, I just had a lot of fire, or I was stubborn like a rock. And that helps us just not blame ourselves, instead just go, oh, okay, I noticed that. Now what do I want to do? What do I want to bring in? So how does that sound? Any
It
questions?
sounds it sounds good. I still have a little bit of confusion between what air and space is.
Great.
The difference between the two. There,
Yeah.
um, because I always thought, so I have so much air, but when you and I didn't even know about space. Like I thought that there was just like four elements, and so recently I read that there was space, and now I'm like, I don't know where that is in me. Maybe I'm both. I
So
don't know.
one nice way to think about space is that
Hmm.
without space, none of the elements would exist. So we need that vastness of space for air to be there, but
Yeah.
also for fire and water. So space is like that more subtle level. So have you ever been in prayer or in meditation where you feel really expanded, and almost like um, you are either God? I mean, not that you are God, but that you're in such close relationship to that there is an element of expansion, or that you have so much compassion for
Yeah.
another person that there's just
Yeah.
a lot of
And yesterday during the meditation, I think I gained a greater understanding for space. Now that you said that, because it just reminded me of the meditation from yesterday when we you brought up space. It helped me a lot because I I felt in that moment when you were going through it that I was able to have room for a lot of the things that I was feeling frustrated with, because I had a kind of a realization in that moment that okay, there's time and ability for everything in kind of like in the eternities, because I kind of went out into space and I was like, okay, there's enough room here for everything. I don't have to worry about any lack or any restrictions. There was room for everything in that moment, and so it just gave me that kind of ease in that moment where I was like, okay, everything's gonna be okay. I don't have to worry about not having. There was no boundaries there, so it felt good.
That's beautiful. That is a great explanation of that. And so one of the differences maybe between that and air is that
Hmm.
air element, if you think of the wind and movement and flexibility,
Hmm.
air is a little bit more about change, or the ability to move, to shift, the way like the wind goes through a landscape, where just like you so clearly explained space, air is a little bit more like wind, moving, turning, changing, evolving, allowing for growth.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, and you can even like try a little with your body. What would wind be
Yeah,
like, or air, and then what is space like? And just sort of sense that in your physical senses too.
yeah. Space feels more floaty.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe because I don't know. I have one son that's like way into like astronomy and like space science, and so we think about the space a lot, like Hubble space photos I have all over the house. and so I think of space as just being vast and beautiful, and air when you say moving, and I just think of flexibility and be able to change on a moment's notice, and um,
Great.
yeah.
Great. Now, are there two elements? We could explore air and space, but we could also explore two that are a little more different, like
Well, I
earth
know,
and one of
as
those, or
yeah, I was thinking, for me personally, I think I need more water. That's
okay,
just one that I feel like I need more of. Because I
great.
typically I think I'm of myself as more fire and air,
Hmm.
but I feel like I need more water. My husband is earth, I think, and so he gives me that stability that I need.
Yeah,
But I think after listening to the training I just heard, I think I need more water, and so I'd
water.
love to explore the water more.
Great.
Um,
And
and so
what's
either
another
air or
one?
space,
What's
either
another
air or
one you want to
space,
explore?
um, either air or space where you feel like you want to do.
Okay, let's do water and air. Let's do
Okay.
water and air. Those are two good ones. They're
Yeah.
all good, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that it relates to you. So, one of the things about water, when water is in balance, there's this like really beautiful sense of comfort and a feeling that you're okay with everything as it is. You're okay with yourself, you're okay with what's going on. Um, and often, when that water is in really healthy balance, it's easier to enjoy time with loved ones. It's easier to enjoy time because you're not in a rush to change anything or bring more excitement. It's this kind of real acceptance. How does that how does that sound to you as water?
It sounds like I really need that because
Okay.
I don't have, I'm always, I'm feeling very dry. um, I, I love being with my family more than anything in the world, but I always feel like I've been always in a rush to change things, and always very uneasy about, especially where we live and where we are, and I'm always like trying to figure out like how we can change things, and I'm yeah, it's my poor kids. When I say that, I just mean that I've always I'm I feel like I've always planned for the next thing, and I
Uh,
can never just be happy with where we are now and what we're doing. I'm always planning for
yes.
um, the next step, where I wish I could just enjoy where we are. Like, we've
Mhm.
lived in this beautiful home where we are for 16 years now, but I don't ever think I've ever felt like I could just stop and enjoy where we are, because I always felt like from the time we bought it, I'm like, okay, we need to sell, we need to sell, we need to sell, we need to go, we need to move. And I've constantly been in that state. Whereas we've been here 16 years now. If I could have just known all along that we were going to be here 16 years, I could have enjoyed my last 16 years knowing that we would have been here this long.
Well,
So
pretty
I just
amazing
feel
that you
like
were able to stay those 16 years. That's really nice.
that's my husband that's kept us here this
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's
long.
wonderful too that you have the
Keep me
resource of
steady.
fire. Oh, sorry, we're
Mhm.
doubling up here. You have that resource of fire and air, right? That brings that ability to want change. But I can totally also I just want to really comment on how important it is you're noticing that you want more of that comfort and that ease and acceptance.
Yeah, I
Um,
want to be able to enjoy more. The
yeah.
Just accept things as they are. I always still think I'm always going to be wanting to change things, and um, you know, kind of see things as they come and be flexible. And I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah.
But I really do want to just be able to relax and
Yeah.
enjoy and just be. And,
Yeah.
I really want
Well,
to
let's
that.
take our time today with water.
Hmm.
We might not go to air. Let's just stay with water as long as it's helpful, and then we'll process after. The way this works is we do a experiential part, like an exercise where you'll be having an experience with it, and then together we'll talk about it, and then sort of see how you want to bring that into your energy more in the coming days or weeks.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So, just another thing about water is that when it is missing or lacking, it's often, the ideas or thoughts or the state is a little bit of like sensing that things don't feel right. Um, this can happen also for many people if they've been criticized a lot in their life. They can internalize sort of the sense of them not being right or them not feeling right. And so this is like super common, unfortunately, that we will have this experience of feeling that we're not enough in some way or we're not doing things right. Um, just so you know, also, if water gets too much, like there's too much water element, there can be an over kind of acceptance, like not wanting any of that change or not wanting any of that growth. So it's good to know when you're building, when you're adding water in, you don't want to, if you start noticing that you lack enthusiasm or you lack motivation, then maybe you've added a little too much water.
I think, yeah, I can see that. I was thinking of maybe putting in some kind of a safety valve where I can just totally adjust the level to where,
Yeah.
because water is such a beautiful thing where it can almost like the channel dike, they're not dikes, the channel blocks
Yeah.
and balances,
Yeah.
they can adjust the level where they need to be. So I'm hoping I can,
That's a great
um
metaphor. I love that.
yeah,
So we'll totally use that in the meditation. I think that's brilliant.
yeah.
Um, do you remember any times in your life where you can kind of remember more that feeling of ease and comfort and that things just felt right in that moment? Or it might have just been a glimpse, but does anything come to mind?
Um, if I ever had a moment where things were easy for me, it was very much a glimpse. The first thing that comes to mind was when I was a very young teenager, probably 13. And the idea, probably because I'm thinking about water, comes to me when I was at a lake with my friends, a couple friends of mine, up at a Air Force base I lived in Northern California. And I didn't, it was before I had to work, and it was before we were moving a lot, and I felt very safe on that Air Force base. And so I was kind of out of danger from my early youth, and it was before I had some weird stuff happen in my teens, and so I
Yeah,
just felt very safe in that space. So
that's
that
beautiful.
was that was a comfortable time.
Yeah. And I know you're also deeply religious. And
Yeah.
so I'm guessing I can remember you sharing about when you found sort of your path and
Yeah.
others on
I
that
was in my
path.
mid-20s, yeah.
Yeah, and to me, when you shared that, it felt very safe. But I don't know what your experience was. I just listening to you, it felt
Yeah.
gave me a sense of safety,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
and
And
comfort.
but then it wasn't necessarily easy then. It was
Right.
very meaningful, but it wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't easy.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I had to work really hard for it, and then I
Uh,
immediately went on a mission, and so that was a very difficult journey, but it was
yeah.
beautiful. But it was very I had to work really hard.
Yeah, I like your distinction there, how you can really see the difference of that feeling right, but still being a lot of work.
Yeah, it's been very
Yeah,
challenging. My whole
yeah,
life has been very
yeah.
challenging.
Challenging, yeah. And
It's been very worthwhile, but it's been very challenging.
yeah, often when our life is full of growth and
Yes.
service, it is challenging, right? So
Yeah.
it's nice to want to bring in more of that ease and comfort.
Yeah.
Um, when we talk about water, I'm just wondering if anything else kind of shows up for you before we do the meditation. Any people or times in your life where you felt um, that maybe you noticed in others, an overabundance of that water, comfort, or a lack of it, or anything? It could be like one part of your life feels more that way and another part feels less. I'm just curious. You don't have to have an answer to this.
I'm trying to think of someone that I know that would, that I could emulate or even model some feeling after, like someone that looks like they've got an easy life, but or not an easy life, but just feels comfortable all the time.
Mhm.
That I could,
So, a nice way to look at it is comfort with oneself.
yeah.
So, when a person feels comfort with them, like safe and authentic, like I don't actually know her, but I like what she talks about. Like when I listen to Brene Brown, and she seems to, speak to this sort of
Mhm.
um, courage to be herself and to be. I don't know. That's just one person I thought of. But if there's anyone you might not know them personally, that's nice to notice.
Yeah, and I can't think of her name right now, but there's someone that I was introduced to through Facebook. I don't know her personally, but she's a PhD. She's a doctor that speaks. She does stories, and she
Mm,
speaks stories all the time. And
mm,
she's beautiful. Oh gosh, I wish I could remember her name, but she speaks stories all the time, and she encourages people to just share their true, authentic stories.
mm,
Um, and when she speaks, they always show the camera like right up close to her face, and she has
mm,
these big rimmed glasses. And usually, when she shares her story, she cries,
mm.
and she, her glasses kind of fill up with tears, and I could just, um, you could just feel the love in her stories. And usually, it's just some simple little story about, sending her daughter to do something or her doing something. She's just an amazing storyteller. I wish I could remember her name to share it with you. I'll have to tell it to you
No,
later.
but that's okay. Let's just
Yeah.
hold that sense of her here to
Yeah,
help
she's
you
very,
with this process.
yeah,
That's
either it's a
beautiful,
painful
but
story or a real story,
yeah,
whatever. It's just she
yeah,
has
that
this beautiful
authentic.
way of sharing her authentic self and through story.
That's great. And I love it, even
Uh,
the image of the water in the glasses.
yeah, she has
There's
always these big
water for
glasses.
us.
Right. Yeah, it's just the tears, just being
Yeah,
able to share and be at one with the moment and just being so real, even to strangers, just sharing and trying. I think it's beautiful.
that's wonderful.
Hmm.
Okay, that's a great memory to start off this process with.
Hmm.
So if you're comfortable, Cynthia, with eyes closed or eyes open, however you're most comfortable, just take a moment to take some nice deep breaths, letting that exhale be really nice and relaxed and long. And just take your time.
I'm shaking, so I'm trying to relax.
That's great to notice that. I'm shaking. Like I can
Mhm.
I honor and appreciate that you could sense that in yourself and have that.
Yeah.
So yeah. And when you're ready, just start to imagine water. You might think of lakes or ponds or rivers, the ocean, a pool. It might be for you drinking a nice glass of water. Just whatever images or experiences, felt experiences of water. And notice how water can show up for you as comfort and ease just in nature. Noticing how in nature, water can really have that quality of ease, tranquility. And as you already mentioned, that time in your life when you noticed at that Air Force base the kind of safety and comfort, you might want to bring up that memory then too. And this sense of this wonderful storyteller and her authentic ease and comfort as she speaks her truth and her stories. Just letting all of that information be felt by you as the qualities of water. And as you notice this, if you ever notice like moments when you don't have that, that's good too. Just notice that. Notice that with kindness if times come to you when you maybe want more of that ease and comfort in your day to day life, in any part of your life, in yourself. Notice that. Notice that with kindness, with compassion. And you might give some words internally to that, and of when that is, so that you're able to be clear with how you want this ease and comfort to come into your life. And just breathe in the quality of water, imagining that water in nature, the ease, the comfort in who you are. As you imagine the water in nature, allow yourself to bring in a sense of knowing who you are, knowing that you can be comfortable right now with how things are in some way. It might just be comfort with how the body feels, or comfort with the way you imagine water. And let yourself breathe in and out, just noticing the beauty of water, the ease of water. And maybe thoughts will come to you, or experiences with any of your senses, of the kind of metaphor of water, like you had talked about the locks and the movement of filling up and letting out, or the ebb and flow of waves, or a waterfall. And just notice if there's any part of your life, or your body, or your emotions, or your thoughts, or even relationships, where you want to bring this water element. Take your own deep breaths as you notice those parts of your life, and you imagine water going into those parts of your life. It could be very internal, like into a part of your body. It could be more into a part of your day or a role. And if you notice anywhere where there's too much water, you can kind of give it to the universe to heal. Just say, there you go, I'm releasing it out for the universe to have that excess of water. And then invite your own tradition, your own beliefs, as well as that expanded sense you talked about of space, to just bring you healing, to bring you what you need so that you can feel deeply comfortable, so that you can allow this healing from the universe and from everything you believe so deeply in. You can allow that to come in and help you and heal anything that doesn't feel comfortable, that doesn't feel easy. And as you exhale, make that exhale long, relaxing, and just breathe in, inviting the ease and comfort, breathing out, letting go. And if there's emotion, let that go too. You're totally safe to feel. And I can see that your hands are on your face. So I just want to make sure you're okay, Cynthia, as we do this. Yes, okay, good. And just take in that knowing that you are so true and wise and comfortable in yourself. Knowing that you can feel all the good within yourself, and all the comfort and all the ease in the moment. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Hi, how are you?
Good. I had a a really nice memory Well, I had a few nice memories.
Tell me what showed up.
Well, the one that made me cry. Well, I'll start with the other ones first. Because I was thinking first about that time you mentioned, when I was back on the Air Force Base, it was, just kind of like a time where I was still able to be innocent and have fun. I used to go to the Air Force Base. I'd walk a couple miles to. We had a pool that we were able to go to, and I've always had this really crazy long hair, and I remember going to the base pool, and if the lifeguards didn't catch me, I didn't have to braid it, and so I'd be able to go into the pool with this long hair, and I'd jump into the pool, and I would love. I just remember having these like surreal moments where I felt like I could like breathe underwater for some reason. I like would have these times where I don't know, I'd do this like wiggle thing and I'd pretend I was a mermaid and and my hair would be like floating all around and I just remembered that just being under the water and having my hair float all around and it was just kind of a fun um it was a really peaceful fun time where I could just play like that playing in the water and it was just fun and
If
um
you were to bring that now, that sense that you could remember into a part of your day or a part of your life, where would you bring that feeling of being in the water?
it was just a really it was silent and it was free and it was comfortable and it was playful, which is something that I really need too. Um, I don't know where I bring it. I mean, I mean, I could use that everywhere. I think those
Okay.
things.
Okay,
I could
cool.
have that everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just being able just to kind of it's I just ended it I know it's funny how I was just relating to a pool because I'm always so connected with nature but I just was connecting to this silly chlorine filled pool. I was laying back and floating on a pool and um
But there is something so safe about a pool. You're not worried about the tides or the temperature, all those things.
yeah,
Often you can really go into it, like you just described, like
yeah, I could
down into the
really
pool. Yeah.
yeah and dive down in there and I knew there were lifeguards, even though they weren't bothering me about I was supposed to have my hair all tied up but they didn't care, they were just letting me kind of do my thing.
Yeah.
um and then I bounce around a lot in these visualizations in my head. So I bounced around to a lot of different places, and one was a creek, and I was looking, and I was really enjoying just kind of stepping around in the water until I had to leave because I looked under the water and saw the fish, and that freaked me out. So I couldn't be in the water there, so that I had to bounce around somewhere else.
Yeah.
But what really got me is when and I didn't even think about it until after you mentioned bringing in my my religion. Um, one of the most beautiful times I ever spent in water was my baptism,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
I just remember going into the water into that font, and the water was so warm. And I just remember one of the things I wrote in my journal that night was being baptized, and I remember not wanting to come out of the water because it was warm, and I just felt so wonderful, and I just felt, like, so relieved, and, um, I just remember not wanting to walk out because they were like, "Okay, you're done," and they wanted it was they wanted me to get up, and everybody wanted to give me a hug, and I was like, "No, I wanna stay here." And I just remember that feeling, and I just kind of relived that moment of being in the water and, um and then coming back up out of the water and it was just such a beautiful moment and that's when I like covered my face because I was just like oh my gosh that was intense.
That's
It was
so
just a
good.
beautiful moment.
That's so good. And that's exactly a way. The two things you just described are ways to enter into that water element and invite it home. Like you're just
Mhm,
inviting it back into your system. So
mhm,
even right now, you can just invite from that memory of the baptism, invite that
Mhm.
sense of comfort and the feeling you had of not wanting to leave there. Invite that into your body or into your whatever you want to invite it into. Just invite it back home. Like you can have it right now. You're writing something down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to forget this.
So, just so everyone knows, while Cynthia takes a moment to take notes, we're on page 11. So, when we're just working with one element, we discuss the client's experience. We have the client share after we've done that meditation. And usually the coach would be taking notes during this time. I'm trusting my memory here. Um, So we're also going to touch on, because we're just doing one element, we're going to touch on a strengths process right now with the element. So, how do you feel that water is now that you've done that, or just imagining that being more part of you? How is that a strength for you? How is that a resource for you? What words do you give that?
Well, for me, it really felt, I mean, I just see it as so many metaphors and so many, the memories that came back to me were just reminders of all the things that it meant for me. So they were just, really everything, all these experiences in our lives are just meanings that we assign to them. And
Mm.
so for me, it's the metaphor, it's the reminders, it's the memories of what made it so meaningful. And so I don't know if that's what you're asking
Oh,
for, or that's what it's
perfect. No,
supposed to be,
perfect.
but
That's the strength for you. It's that meaning, and in
yeah.
that metaphor, that meaning.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
that's what made it so
yeah,
impactful for me. So
yeah.
when I need something or when I need strength, I can remember the meaning of those moments and the knowing, because time is all that separates me
Right.
from that feeling that I had, and so I can bring that back and I can remember feeling peace and feeling joy and feeling at ease and feeling playful and feeling protected and feeling free and feeling um you
You
know
also use the word
forgiven,
silent. You also use the word
silent.
silence
Yeah,
in the water.
yeah,
Yeah.
feeling that, because I really felt like I could do anything when I was that mermaid. I really it was silly, but I felt like I could breathe through my ears when I was a kid. It was silly, I know, but I
That's
just felt like
great.
good, like I
That
could do
is
anything.
great.
And
Wow. So it's an enormous expansion too. I can do anything. Like that's a
yeah,
huge strength.
yeah. Like I could do or be anything because that was my imagination that was in there. I was like, oh, I could be a mermaid, or I could breathe through my ears, or I could stay underwater as long as I want to. There was no limit to me. It wasn't like I didn't have any, it wasn't
You just
my
froze.
lungs that were holding me back. I could breathe through my ears if I wanted to. It was, I know it's strange, but to me, I said there was no limit to me. It wasn't my lungs that were holding me back. I could breathe through my ears if I wanted to.
Wow. And I think that
So,
speaks to you to
I,
how imagination is this incredible strength for you too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't
And
know if
then
I'm on a delay,
in the
Cynthia. Oh, am I on a little bit of a delay? Are you hearing me okay?
I'm hearing you real
Okay.
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Great.
And that
So, how would you like to connect with water in the coming week, like as a
send it
practice?
to me.
You can use your imagination in this way. Oh, thank you, tech support. Um,
I'll get a boost this way.
okay. So you can use your imagination to connect with the water element, but there may also be water somewhere that you want to go and be with. So what do you think? What comes to you as a practice?
Feel like I said, I'm kind of the fire um, and air. That's typically where I find myself. And I, to the point where I get really out there and, you know, expanded, and my imagination kind of goes crazy, and I plan, and I get way ahead of myself, and to where I almost burn out. Um, and so I get, I used to get really bad migraines and um, exhausted kind of feelings. And what I felt naturally drawn to is like I'd take a shower to help cool my head, because my head is always so hot. It's
Mm,
always hot.
yeah.
So I'm always putting, like, I'm trying to put ice or water or something on
Yeah.
my head to cool it off. And so like a shower or um,
Okay.
something, or like, I don't get a lot of baths because in Southern California, I just feel like it's too much of a guilty pleasure to take a bath.
Yeah.
But like, sometimes I'll take a shower, or um, we don't have a lot of natural lakes or anything to look at, but we do have some water around I could look at.
So the shower is perfect. So when you do take a shower, maybe just invite that water element to
Mm,
really come in on that level that's deeper than just the water on your skin or the coolingness, but like on a spiritual energy level, invite that water,
yeah,
that connection with water. Because this can be very practical too, in the sense that we're, even when you're drinking water,
yeah, I
inviting
know.
water as an element, really help me out here, fill me up, help me feel that meaning, that peace, that joy, that playfulness, that protection, that silence, that freedom. Those were
Yeah,
all words you used as you were describing the state of water for you, on an energy or emotional level.
yeah. And I really enjoy the, like, the silence and the, actually the darkness of it too sometimes. Um, because usually I have to close my eyes in water, and so I like the darkness of it. My husband thinks it's weird, but I turn all the, I like the lights off, and I like dark showers.
Beautiful.
And he's like, "Why why don't you have the lights on?" I'm like, "I know where my body is. I know, I know,
Love it.
I know where the
Love
soap is."
I love that. That's perfect.
So I like
All
dark
right.
showers.
And so you kind of have a practice outlined here. Is there any message you want to give to it in terms of words, of when you call water element into yourself? How could you give that voice, in a sense, right now that we write down? What would you say to it as a like an invitation to come home to you and give you the element of water as a healing?
I rely on my imagination for almost everything. So I almost think I would just need to see it or
Okay.
visualize it.
Yes. Okay, see it, visualize it.
So it almost seems to be like it has to be a meditative practice. Or I really like watching when I'm up and doing chores or in the kitchen or whatever. I like putting on those. We have a big TV in the family room. I put on like they're like uh, it's like drone videos
Uh-huh.
of
Uh-huh.
naturescapes.
Oh, that's
Um,
amazing. What a good way to bring water element in.
yeah, so I like,
You can
I can
watch it
see.
more on the
Yeah,
TV. Yeah.
so I can put those on, and they usually have beautiful music that goes with it, so I can
Yeah.
watch beautiful water
Yeah.
things, and they'll
Yeah.
show like islands and
So
things.
however you do it, take a moment when it's on to invite that with your imagination. It might come as a metaphor of whatever comes to you. You have a lot of metaphors available to you. So just whatever metaphor comes, that you're calling it back home to you, the water element.
Like
Okay.
verbally, or just kind of.
However it shows up for you, you can say it verbally and then see what the visual is, because you're so visual. So someone who's not visual, just because some of us are not, the client might come up with a kind of invitation like, water element, I invite you to bring me ease and comfort right now in this moment. Or water element, I invite you to be part of the way I work, or the way I'm in relation to my children, or the way I'm in relationship to food, whatever it is. I invite you, water element. I invite you to help me. And so for some it's really helpful for it to be like words, but it sounds like for you it's more helpful for it to be a metaphor. So it could be a metaphor of like a waterfall coming home to you, or that as you mentioned, like the locks on a river or a canal, you know, or the pool, or the moment of the baptism. Whatever comes to you is perfect. Just trust yourself with that.
I think for me to stay in line with my faith, instead of talking directly to a water element, I think I would just need to say I'm grateful for the water, or
Mm,
be more, because I would be not speaking directly to an element, but speaking almost like a prayer of gratitude for water.
beautiful.
Um,
Beautiful.
I think that would make it easier for me to stay in alignment.
Okay, perfect. That is perfect. And for some people, it might be more the emotion of that comfort and ease without even mentioning the water element, just saying, I'm grateful for this moment and for all the comfort and the ease I can feel right now. So, like, if anyone was uncomfortable with the idea of like water element as something like as an element, it can also be the emotion of the water element. Okay, very cool, Cynthia. Do you feel good? Do you feel complete with this?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it very much. I'm grateful you're allowing me to kind of adjust it to how it aligns
Oh,
with me.
yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
the purpose of this coaching. We always want our clients to adjust it to be just right for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Okay,
really.
absolutely.